Hello Pokemon fans, Professor K here for the Pokemon Evolutionaries, and today we're going to take a look at a deck profile. I'm not going to do the in real life ones like we've been doing because I just didn't have the time to put the deck together, but I do have it on PTCGO for you guys, so we're going to take a look at it here today, and that is Night March Latios. Now, Night March is a deck that we thought would not survive rotation whatsoever, but it actually has shown some life in some standard format tournaments. We're going to take a look at how that's possible here with the first Pokemon is Latios EX. Now, the reason why Latios EX is in here is just for fast rate. For a single Psychic Energy, if you go first, you can use this attack on your first turn. Essentially, you're looking to just basically take out a deck that only has one basic Pokemon, and say if it's another Night March or a Vespiquen or something else, it just does a good job of being able to maybe turn one donk your opponent and win the game on the first attack, especially if you have a Muscle Band and you get the Psychic Energy to get it going. So we do have one copy of Latios EX. For that reason, you'll never use Light Pulse at all with this deck. It's just as a first turn attacker, just to kind of clear the board and end the game before it really starts, so to speak. Also, we do have Hawlucha EX because it's got Free Retreat for 1, so it's a good starter. Also, Flying Press for 1 Fighting Energy does 60 damage to a Pokemon EX. So if you do happen to start with it and you're going second, you can start dealing 60 damage on your first turn, and only because it's a little bit harder to get your Night Marchers in the discard pile with this deck, it does that a little bit of extra damage, so that way on the next turn you're guaranteed yourself a knockout. Mainly it's there for Free Retreat, but it definitely does do the job against EX decks. So we do have the one copy of Hawlucha. Other than that, it's a pretty standard Night March deck. Not much was really lost from rotation other than Mew, but we do have our 4 copies of Joltik, our 4 copies of Lampent, and our 4 copies of Pumpkaboo, all for the Night March attack. Now, obviously, Pumpkaboo is 3 energy, but with Dimension Valley, we can turn that down to 2. So, 20 damage times the number of Pokemon in your discard pile that have the Night March attack. Even though we only have 12 Marchers and that's it is still possible to hit for quite a bit of damage with this deck, especially with the addition of Latios and Hawlucha. We do have also 3 copies of Shaman EX with the setup ability. Main reason is just for that. We're trying to get through as many cards as we can, so we're dealing as much damage as fast as we possibly can. So that's the Pokemon lineup here. Of course, Joltik is usually going to be the Pokemon you want to deal the damage with, just because there are a lot of lightning weak Pokemon out there right now, and Night March is possible with a double colorless energy, even without the stadium in play. So that's it for the Pokemon lineup. Otherwise, we have our supporter lineup. Professor Sycamore, 4 copies of that is going to be our draw engine. It's the only draw supporter that we're going to have, but it definitely does the job. We don't really want a whole lot of shuffle draw. We just want to burn through the deck and start dealing tons and tons of damage. We do also have 2 copies of Lysander to switch one of your opponent's benched Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. Being able to hit those big EXs for 2 prizes is a whole lot better than dealing the damage to a single non-EX Pokemon taking only 1 prize, especially since we lost Lysander's trump card. We really don't want to burn through our deck quite as fast. We do worry a little bit about the prize exchange, so Lysander will help you with that. We also have 1 copy of Hex Maniac. Until the end of your opponent's next turn, each Pokemon in play in each player's hand and each player's discard pile has no abilities. This includes cards that come into play on that turn. So you're going to want to play out everything that you can, use all of your abilities, play Hex Maniac for, say, your opponent's Aegis/EX. That way you're able to hit them with your double colorless energy. You can also shut down their Shaman EXs and their draw support and everything that they can possibly do. It just does a really good job at shutting down your opponent and being able to get through things you normally would not be able to get through. We also have 1 copy of Teammates. You can only play this card if one of your Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Shuffle your or search your deck for up to 2 cards and put them into your hand and shuffle afterwards. This is what you're going to use to search out your double colorless energies and anything else you might happen to need in the deck. So Teammates is a really good fit for this because you do get knocked out quite a bit with your 1 prize low HP attackers like Joltik and Pumpkaboo. Also Hawlucha as well now. We do have 1 copy of Xerosic. Choose a Pokemon tool or special energy card attached to a Pokemon in play, yours or your opponent's, and discard it. This will get rid of Muscle Bands and DCEs and Strong Energies and Double Dragon Energies, especially now that we have Giratina as a thing, and Toad still goes along with it. You can get rid of some of the things that make it work, and it'll get you out of item lock and things like that. All right, so onto our items here. We do have 3 copies of Acrobike. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck and put one of them into your hand. Discard the other card. This is much better, in my opinion, in this deck than something like Trainer's Mail, because you can actually get DCEs off of an Acrobike instead of a Trainer's Mail when you can only get a trainer card. You can also get a Pokemon too if you want to, so Acrobike I think is a better choice overall. We also have 4 copies of Battle Compressor because the deck is heavily reliant on Battle Compressor, being able to get those Night Marchers in the discard pile, or even a supporter card in the discard pile for the next turn to be used with a VS Seeker. Search your deck for up to 3 cards and discard them, shuffle your deck afterwards. Pretty straightforward and simple there, really important in this kind of a deck. We also have 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Discard 2 cards from your hand and search your deck for a Pokemon. This is your way you're going to get Shamans and also diminish your hand size in order to draw a lot off of them. Ultra Ball is an integral part of that whole thing, not to mention you can throw out Night Marchers that way as well to help speed up the process. So we have 4 copies for that reason. We also have 4 copies of VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. This works really well considering that we only have 1 Hex Maniac, 2 Lysanders, 1 Teammates, and 1 Xerosic. Less likely you're going to use the VS Seeker for Xerosic, but maybe for Teammates and Hex Maniac and also Lysander. Since we have 4 Sycamore, you're probably going to get them before you're going to need to VS Seeker for them, but if you do happen to Compressor one away, that way you can use the VS Seeker you have in your hand for the same turn. It is definitely possible. So 4 copies of VS Seeker is definitely a must in this deck for that reason as well. We do have 1 copy of Enhanced Tamer. I would like to have 2. I'm still working out whether or not we can drop something for it. Discard a special energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon. Really powerful in the format right now. I think if I had to choose, I'd probably drop 1 Dimension Valley and add in a second Hammer, but it's a matter of preference. You can go either way. This deck has been working for me the way it is right now, so you can leave it like it is as well. We do have 1 copy of Escape Rope as our switching card, being able to switch our active with one of our benched, and your opponent has to do the same. You don't get to pick, but they do. But however, if their only a benched Pokemon is in EX, then maybe it benefits you more in the long run, but definitely helps to get something out of the active, say Latios EX or Shaman EX, if we absolutely had to. We also have 2 copies of Revive. Put a basic Pokemon from your discard pile onto your bench. Works really well considering now we don't have Mew EX, so we can lose our Night Marchers fairly easily and run out before it's time to call the game in your favor. So we really want to get them back if we can. So 2 copies of Revive helps you put a Joltik or a Pumpkaboo onto your bench as well. So we also have 3 copies of Muscle Band to deal 20 extra damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Just a little bit of extra boost just in case you can't get all of the Night Marchers in the discard pile that you need, because even with 11 Marchers in the discard pile, you're hitting for 220. It's not enough to knock out something like a Primal Groudon or Primal Kyogre or something like that if you happen to face them, so Muscle Band will get you that 240. And if you're down to 1 last Night Marcher with all the rest in the discard pile, you probably don't need that Muscle Band, or you're in trouble anyway, so there's the Muscle Band for that reason if you need it. That is it for our trainers, items, and now we move on to our stadiums. There are 4 copies of Dimension Valley. Each Psychic Pokemon's attacks, both yours and your opponent's, cost a single colorless energy less. This is what works with Pumpkaboo with that 3 energy cost Night March, knocking it down to only requiring a double colorless energy. Really important for that reason. And just in case you happen to not have enough Joltics to keep things going, Pumpkaboo sometimes is the better choice. If your opponent's only being able to hit for 50 damage, a Pumpkaboo will survive that for 1 turn, while on the other hand, it will knock out a Joltik with only 30 HP. And also, if you have something that snipes for bench damage, you may want to use Pumpkaboos a bit more anyway. Our energy count is 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy, being able to power up Night March, whether it goes on Joltik or Pumpkaboo, or even Shaman in a pinch. You can Sky Return for 30, 50 with a Muscle Band. We also have 2 copies of Fighting Energy for Hawlucha, and we have 2 copies of Psychic Energy for Latios. Now, this deck has done very well in some of the local league challenges that I've seen. I've seen it place pretty well. It's a good deck. I wouldn't say that it's top tier right now, but it definitely is a contender, especially if you're able to consistently get set up by turn 2. So this is the deck, guys. I'm going to try to get a video for you guys of a battle, maybe Saturday. I didn't have enough time to do a actual in real life profile, so hopefully this works for you guys in the interim. It definitely shows off the deck and gives you an idea of what you can do with it from there. Feel free to make any changes that you want to, and of course, stay tuned for more TCG content. If you like the video, be sure to like it, comment down below, and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this and openings as well. So until next time, guys, I'm Professor K for the Pokemon Evolutionaries. You all take care.